All right, so in the last video, we really looked at the notation. In this video, we're going to look at how that works for a problem that you might see. So we're to find the value of x in the diagram. So we got to figure out how long x is. So of course, the first thing we need to figure out is where is x? Found it. There we go. Answer's done, right? Find x. Found. Found it. Okay. No, that won't work. You can't just do that. But so find the value of x. We got to figure out how long x is in the diagram. And it tells us a little bit of information here. It says that triangle MNP, so NMP, there's triangle NMP, is, and then they use this symbol right there. It's called a tilde, and it's actually typically in the top left-hand corner on your keyboard. But the tilde means that they're similar to. So triangle NMP is similar to STU. So here's triangle STU. So we've got MNP and STU. STU. And so what that means again, if I go back here, I know you don't have these notes now, but is that if two triangles are similar, the angles are the same, the corresponding angles are the same, and the corresponding sides are proportional. And we're going to use that proportionality to help us in this problem. So if I know that MNP and triangle STU are similar to each other, again by that, that tilde, we know that they're similar to each other. That means that the sides are proportional. So I got to find the matching sides. Now I see that ST and MN, they look like they're matching. They're both going up and down, they're both vertical, they're both on the left side, and in fact, if I look at the lettering here, MN and ST are the first two letters. They do match in the letters, they match in the picture, they're matching sides, they're corresponding sides, which means I can set up a ratio between the two of them. Now I read from left to right, but it doesn't really matter how you do it, so I'm going to do 4/6. I got that from ST and MN. I'm going to set up that proportion, which means I need another fraction here. Now, I know that, it appears that SU and MP also match up. In fact, if I look, SU is the first letter and the last letter, so there's SU, MP, first letter and the last letter. So yes, SU and MP do match, which means I can set up a proportion or a ratio with those two sides. Now I read from left to right before, so I have to continue reading from left to right. So I did 4/6. Now I'm going to do x over 14. X over 14. And again, I got those from right here. ST and MN are corresponding sides. So I set up a ratio between those two sides. SU and MP are corresponding sides. So I set up a ratio between those two. And I just made sure to read from left to right both times. Now I have a proportion. I can solve a proportion. And so I'm going to cross multiply. 4 times 14, so I'm going to get 56 equals 6 times x is 6x. I divide to get x by itself. And 56 divided by 6, I'm going to get out my calculator here quick. We're looking at 56 divided by 6 at 9.3 repeating. And I don't know, does it say to round? It does not, so we'll just go with 9.3 repeating. You could have certainly wrote 9 1/3 as well. And that's the answer. That's how long x is. Oh, and I should probably label, I apologize, x centimeters. X centimeters. And so I have 9.3 repeating centimeters. I have my answer. That's how long x is. Next, let's look at another example. So now we've got these trapezoids. We've got trapezoid ABCD, and trapezoid WXYZ. And again, we have this tilde, so we know that they're similar, which means the angles match and are equal, and the corresponding sides are proportional. So I have to find the value of x. Here's x right there. X appears to match with 2 inches, but let's double check the letters. BC is 2 inches. Okay, BC, middle 2 letters. XY is blank inches. We don't know. Middle 2 letters. There we go. We know then for sure that 2 inches and X inches are corresponding sides. So I can set up a proportion from that. 2 over X. I can also see here that 5 inches appears to match with 7 inches. AB and WX, yep, they match in the letters as well. And so we can set up a proportion. Again, I read from left to right before. I got to continue reading from left to right. So it'd be 5 over 7. I have a proportion. I can cross multiply, and I can get a solution from that. So I cross multiply. I do 2 times 7 is 14, and 5 times x is 5x. And so I'm going to divide. I'm going to divide both sides by 5 to get that by itself, to get x by itself, excuse me. And so when I divide both sides, here we go, divided by 5, I'm going to get 2.8 equals, oh, and again, I need to label. So 2.8, I'm going to look back at my problem, x inches, so 2.8 inches. It's going to give my answer for x. And so using this similar figure idea that the sides are proportional allows us to figure out exactly how long x is by setting up these proportions. Give this one a try on your own. All right, I'm going to assume that you paused it. I'm going to assume that you tried it on your own. And so we're going to set this one up. Now again, I'm going to look at those letters. I'm going to make sure that things match. Because this one is not quite perfectly set up the same way as the other ones. But remember that you can turn things in space. Things can be turned and flipped and rotated and all sorts of stuff. And so if I want to find x, I'll use a different color here. If I want to find x, I need to figure out which side matches with x. X is FG. I see the letters there, FG. So here's FG. That means it must match with AB. Here's AB right there. So 10 inches. So I'm reading from left to right. I can set up a proportion, x over 10. The other side, I've got 3.5 inches. That's JH, or HJ. So here's HJ. I then can look back and say, well, CD. CD. CD matches. There it is, which is good, because that's the only other number we have. And so I know that 3.5 inches can be set up as a ratio with 14 inches. Now I have a proportion. And really, again, the hardest part at this point should be setting up the proportion. Once you've set it up, then multiplying shouldn't be too bad. We can cross multiply and divide. We get x by itself. And if I do 35 divided by 14, I'm going to get 2.5. And again, I'm going to look at my unit. What am I labeling it with here? X inches. So 2.5 inches. That's how long x is. Okay, what I want you to do is this. I want you to solve. Oh, I apologize. We'll do one more here, and then I'll give you those problems. We've got one more problem. How am I doing on time? Good. Okay. One more problem. This one's a little tricky. We've got an x and a y. That's tough. So things that match. Let's see. Let's maybe try and solve for x first. We've got triangles, but they're not really separate from each other. Let's do this. Let's maybe set this up a little bit different. I'm going to redraw these pictures. Rather than having one triangle on top of another triangle, I'm going to redraw them. And so this might be a good way for you to do it too. So go ahead and draw. We've got a smaller triangle and a bigger triangle. So on a smaller triangle, that smaller triangle is right here. I've got 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to label 3, 4, 5. Now the bigger triangle. The bigger triangle goes all the way up and down those sides. So the bigger triangle, one side is not 10. You'll notice 10 is just from here to there. That's all 10 is. That's it. That's the length. So if I want to know this whole side, that whole side is 5 and 10. That whole side is 15. The 5 and the 10 together make up that entire side of the big triangle. The bottom of that triangle is x. And then the other side, the third side of that triangle, this whole side here is not y. It's y and 3 together, which gives us y plus 3. That's how long that side is, y plus 3. So if we're going to solve for x and y, oh boy, y plus 3, that seems weird. So let's maybe work on x first. So let's look at x. There we go. So I've got my two different triangles. I can find sides that match. Now I know that 5 and 15, they're probably going to match. And so I can set up my proportion 5 over 15, or my ratio, excuse me. And I'm trying to find x. So x is going to match with 4. So 4 over x. I've got a proportion, so I can cross multiply and divide. Cross multiply, I'm going to get 60. 40, 50, 60, yep, equals 5x. Divide both sides by 5, and I'm going to get that 12 equals x. And I don't think there was a label with these ones. No, so we'll just go with 12. X equals 12. So we're halfway there. We found x. We know how long x is. And it's 3 times as big. From 5 to 15, 3 times as big. From 4 to 12, 3 times as big. So that's another way you can look at this too. These numbers worked out pretty nice. But let's do it the same way for y. Okay, so what matches with y? We've got y plus 3 and 3 match up. So I know I can write 3 over y plus 3. Now we could assume that we have the correct answer for x and use 4 and x as our other part of the proportion. However, I don't like to assume I have the right answer. I know 5 and 15 are right because they were given to me. So I'm going to use 5 and 15 again for this proportion. Now I'm going to cross multiply. Don't forget parentheses when there's more than one thing in the numerator or the denominator. We cross multiply. 15 times 3 is going to give me 45. And I've got 5 and y plus 3 in parentheses. I distribute through the parentheses. I'm going through quickly, but you can always pause, rewind, slow down, and I distribute through the parentheses. I can solve for y. I subtract 15 from both sides. And I'm going to get 30 equals 5y. I'm almost done. I divide both sides by 5 to get y by itself. And I see that 6 equals 1. Which, if we go back to our idea that it's 3 times as big, scroll up again, you can always pause and go back. 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9, which would mean that y would have to be 6, because 6 plus 3 is 9. So it does work, and we can set up that proportion and solve. That was a tricky one. We'll keep talking about that. I'd like you to try the page S7, numbers 51 and 52. Make sure that you have questions ready to go then. If you're not sure how to set these up, try 51 and 52, and make sure that you are ready to go with questions when class starts tomorrow. Thank you.